Let me start that over if we weren't online. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the HR Committee meeting, Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. I'd like to at this time call the meeting to order. Can we turn that down a bit? Like the echo? Do you hear the echo?
No, we can hear you.
No, they can hear the echo, though. We have any declarations of conflict of interest? Hearing none. We need an approval of the agenda. Councillor Ramsey, second Councillor Bernard.
It's on the floor, Mr. Chair. Could I just, under new business, in the past, we would get numbers on permanent, seasonal, entry level. I just want to bring that up under new business, just to give notice.
So do you want to bring that up when we get to
Just a
section
notice
7?
of motion, just a notice for the next meeting.
Okay, do you
Just
want
a-
to bring that up when we get down to section 7?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So back to, we have approval of agenda, adoption of the minutes. Your minutes from the HR committee meeting on February 14th, 2024 is in your package. Do we have a question, Councillor Ramsey? No, okay, you're moving. Second, Councillor Bernard, thank you very much. Any business arising from those minutes? Hearing none? Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to discussions or any reports. We have a number of reports. Our first report is the proposed amendments to the city remuneration bylaw, HR MGMT 042024, subsection A, supporting document remuneration bylaw 2020 RMN 01. I'll hand that over to Emily, our manager, to discuss that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I get into reviewing this report, I'm not sure how to put this forward, but there's a section in the remuneration bylaw pertaining to the RSP and tax-free savings account that I would like to defer until we do a bit more research on that piece. But I'd like to move forward with reviewing the salary grid.
That's fine. I don't think there's any objections to that. We're good? Okay, we'll take that off the agenda and discuss that at the next meeting, or you'll have more information at the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
But we would like to move forward with the salary grid and any other items under that remuneration bylaw to bring forward and have that for council this evening.
Okay, so you do want to try to have that for this evening for?
Not the tax-free savings
No,
account and
I realize,
RSP,
yeah,
but yes.
the other one? Okay.
Yes, yeah. So the purpose was to correct an error in the council's remuneration and use 2% as an increase moving forward, removing reference to adjusting remuneration at a rate equivalent to the lowest negotiated percentage given to staff, and to provide clear wording about that tax-free savings account in place of the RRSP. But today, as noted, we'll just be dealing with the correction of the 2% increase. That is attached to the report, if anyone has any questions. I did provide a handout to further expand that grid so you could see where the 5.8% CPI increase will be captured. And that will be retroactive after this is approved and will be paid on the next mayor and council payroll. Thank you.
Oh, hey, Emily, just a quick question. If you wouldn't mind, I suspect, well, one, if we're going to have this discussion tonight about this, will you be in attendance this evening?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so I'm sure this will draw some. So maybe if you can just break this down a little bit. So it goes back to, is it going back as far as 2022 where we had the CPI at 5.8?
Correct. So the grid that is going to be reflected in the remuneration bylaw will reflect 2023 through 2026. So we're not bringing this forward every year to get approved, which is why we wanted to put a grid in there. We wanted to separate it out. It shouldn't be tied to staff increases. We wanted to more tie it to a specific percentage for mayor and council. We also wanted to grant that CPI increase that was afforded to all other staff, which was from 2022. So I just provided a copy of that expanded grid so you could see where that CPI is actually reflected. And that is reflected in the 2023 salary and accounted for as a go forward.
And was this part of the remuneration report, like this recommendation as well. So it's not something outside and over and above what was recommended in that report that we received.
Correct. It was recommended in the report, however, the language was contradictory. It showed these percentage increases in the grid, but still had that line about being tied to the lowest negotiated rate. So we needed to correct that.
Is that hence the update that we're seeing here in red?
Correct.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think the percentage was wrong too, was it not? That had to be corrected.
Yes, the CPI increase percentage, they had, I believe, 5.4, which wasn't the increase we afforded to staff, so we updated that.
Okay. So just anticipating some questions that might come this evening, if we're going to bring that forward. It might not be abundantly clear to everybody what is taking place, so we'll discuss it here, so it's on record here as it have been part of the discussion, and then again this evening, if you have any questions, it'll be directed towards me, which I will kindly direct towards you to speak to the increase on that, so just well in advance notice, yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Head Councillor Ramsey?
Yeah, so Emily, you're saying, just for my own sake here, it's 2% every year, and this kicks back to 2022, January, is it, or?
So currently, mayor and council are being paid at the 2021 rate. So we will go back retroactively and change that based on that 2% and 5.8% CPI increase and make any retro pays owed back to mayor and council effective the next pay.
Because, one more, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Yep.
What is the 5.1 or something that was thrown out there? Am I missing something? Did I hear it was a 5.1, now it's back to 2%, or did I just dream about that? I don't know.
I think it was an error in the report that we received. Is that what the reference was to the?
Mistake, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, we're all good, so we'll thank you, and we will, and you'll address the other component, the tax-free saving or the RSP stuff, yeah, sorry, I was drawing a blank on what that was.
So, Mr. Chair, this is not on the agenda for tonight, so
It is
you have
not.
to add it. When it comes to the agenda for tonight, you add this to the agenda, and it only requires 50% plus one. It's not a special meeting, so you just
So
need,
I'll address that with the manager after the meeting.
yeah.
Yep, no. Okay, thank you, Emily. Let's move my way back up to the report.
Just one more thing, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's a good point, your worship. So do we vote on this tonight? Oh, we do vote, okay. We don't have to have another special meeting to vote on this. It'll be on the floor tonight, am I correct? I get the look from Eleanor and look from
No,
you.
only, just a clarification, Mr. Chair, she's gonna perk the tax
Right, I
free
understand that.
savings account and the RSPs, get a little more information, that'll come back. And then if we vote on that, that'll come up at another meeting.
Oh, that's a separate
She's
meeting.
doing two separate
Okay,
votes.
thank you very much.
Just to hand it over to Dan there, just he wants to make comment.
And an unrelated to the two items that were discussed in this report, but just for notice to the committee, we did identify an element in the travel provisions of the remuneration bylaw that we may look to clarify. So in Schedule A, in terms of travel, there's a provision there that officials may be reimbursed for other expenses incidental and necessary to their municipal duties as approved by council and supported by the receipts. We are of the opinion that it's probably not the intention of council that they approve each and every request for travel expenses. So we'll likely bring back a recommendation with respect to having that signed off by part of the administrative staff as the budget permits. So just a notice that will come forward probably at the same time as the TFSA RSP discussion.
Okay, just to follow up, so I'm clear, we're going to bring this to council tonight, get on the agenda. Are you bringing a motion, a resolution tonight to pass this resolution?
It comes through him.
To Emily, I guess? What, I'm asking the manager, yeah. Are we going to have a resolution to pass?
So you'd have
Yes.
to have a resolution
Yes.
with the tables. Yeah.
Yep, I will get that ready and
Okay.
prepared for this evening.
Which would replace it'll be an amendment to section 6, subsection 6.1. Could I, Mr. Chair, can I just ask Mr. Jenkins, whereabouts in the policy, what number is that regarding the expenses? Is that section?
So it's in the bylaw, and it's in Appendix Schedule A,
Schedule A.
under per diem rates.
Okay, I don't have Schedule A here in my,
It's actually in the package with.
It is?
Yeah, if you just follow after the report, the whole
On page
bylaw is
14
there.
of the package?
yeah, page 14?
14, yeah.
14, yeah. Second
Okay.
paragraph down, and it's the last section of that per diem rates section.
So officials may be reimbursed for other expenses incidental and necessary to their municipal duties as approved by council and support by receipts. Is that,
Yeah.
did we get a legal opinion on that? Remember I was asking if that was your definition? My definition was that when council passes the budget, that is when council has made the decision on the expenses disbursements. Did we
Yeah.
get a legal opinion?
We did not, but I think our preference would be to get just clarification from council, and then we can make the amendment as, just to clarify what is the intention there, rather than having to rely on the lawyer. So it's clearly articulated in the bylaw, that's all.
So, Mr. Chair, that amendment will come back to us and we'll have a discussion at the next meeting.
Because yes, I would interpret that as saying that council will approve all such supported receipts for reimbursement, and we're not going to clearly go through all of those.
Right.
If we have a particular budget that allows for expenses out of there, that would be what that would be considered, I assume.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
we would
probably
just
the language.
just revise that section of Schedule A to reflect the intention of council there.
And this will be at our next meeting, Dan, did you say?
The intention would be through the chair to Councillor Ramsey to bring that forward with the recommended revision with respect to the TFSA RSB question. So it would be, one future amendment to cover both items.
And it's basically like if you go to an FCM and you need a taxi, I guess, from the airport to the hotel, as long as you have your receipt, I think, and things along that line, am I correct? Assuming
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I think that's the intention, but
Yeah.
that's not really how the bylaw reads, so we
Oh,
just wanted
okay.
to
So
clarify that.
Councillor Ramsey, I guess I'd read it, if we got there and realized you didn't have a suit and you went and bought a suit, then we as council could probably approve your purchase of a suit because you needed a suit for the event, if it was reading it that way, right? Which is not what we clearly would want in there. Okay. Okay, thank you. If there's no further.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I know, second question
Second question, yeah,
on the report.
on the report.
So, again, I go back to, this was amended several times with the previous council. And I know that when we looked at this, we were looking at cover not only officials elected, this would be staff officials also. This was not just for us.
There's two separates.
Yeah, no, I know that. But in the bylaw for staff, does it have a similar clause that receipts and expenses have to come to council? No, it doesn't. I know it doesn't. That's why this was mirroring what was in the staff bylaws, that soon as council passed the budgets, those budgets, as you said, would have expenses for travel and other incidental expenses. So I really, if we're going to change it, this is a legal document, right? Yeah, so that's why I think if our lawyer, legal counsel, I asked this a few weeks ago, just to take a look at it. Again, the way I read it right there, it's soon as council passes the budget, that's it. It's done. That's the receipt, or that's the seal of approval from the municipal council.
Mr. Chair.
Well, just could say then, as approved by council's budget, like, I think if you're hung up on the budget, I read it differently than what you read it. So I think we just need to get clarification and take out that gray area. So we just have two different interpretations of that clause, but I think we're all trying to get to the same understanding of what that clause is. So we can get legal to review it and say, yes, that language is proper, and there shouldn't be any interpretation of what that means. Right now, there appears to be two different interpretations of what that could represent. Is that fair? Is that fair? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Bernard?
Well, I'm missing something, I guess. We're talking about 7.1, correct?
No,
No?
Schedule A. Page 14. It's under per diem rates.
Third paragraph down.
But you're under the remuneration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just page
Schedule A.
14 on your,
Pardon me?
sorry, page 14 on the remuneration bylaw, Schedule A, roughly the fifth paragraph down or so. Officials may be reimbursed for other expenses incidental or necessary to their municipal duties as approved by council and supported by receipts.
It's page 14 in the package.
Oh, sorry, in the package, sorry, Councilor Bernard.
Well,
You see it? You see it there?
not yet, but it just popped out on me. I gotta open it back up here.
It's to be approved by council.
That's what we're gonna,
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Problem is it doesn't delegate it by saying approved by council. Does that sound great?
yeah. We just need to get clarity, it's not that difficult. Yeah.
No, that's a first.
That's okay.
That makes the world go round.
I need to check with Tracy about your bylaw process with amending this, like a first and a second reading.
but it's in our package under the remuneration bylaw with amendments, correct?
Yes,
Yes, we're about benefits and severance.
it's on page 5 of the actual,
I got, yeah, okay.
Councilor Ramsey could probably help you find it there, he's good at,
So what section was it again?
Schedule A,
Schedule A?
about the sixth paragraph down from the top of the page.
Schedule A, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Starts out by officials may be reimbursed for other expenses.
Okay, well, that looks like the same wording as it's 7.1. Allowance for expenses. The mayor, deputy mayor, and council shall be reimbursed for legitimate expenses incurred through the execution of their duties as office holders of the municipality in accordance with Schedule A.
Yeah. So it references Schedule A.
Yeah, so, so Dan, what's the concern?
Just through the chair to Councillor Bernard, just that in the bylaw, Schedule A could be interpreted that council's required to approve each individual expense and receipt, and I don't think that's the intention of council. So we want to clarify the wording of that provision in Schedule A to provide an administrative authority to process those expenses.
Okay, because I wonder if that's something outside of travel. If that's something different, because the travel is usually, it's just a per diem we get.
Yeah.
There's no, we don't get reimbursed for meals or stuff like that. It's just, you get your, yeah.
But it could be any number of expenses that, we may be just accustomed to certain ones right now, but it could be any other expense that occurs.
And I don't know what other expense that you
I'm
would be
sure the mayor
reimbursed
must have
for.
other additional expenses that.
No,
What's that?
I
Would
don't
you
know
have
what other
additional
expenses you'd
expenses?
be reimbursed for.
But again, if you go back to 7.1, section 7, allowance for expenses. As Councilor Bernard said, the mayor, deputy mayor, and council shall be reimbursed for their legitimate expenses incurred through the execution of their duties. It's covered.
But it goes on to say in accordance with Schedule A, and then Schedule A has the requirement for council to approve. So yep.
I think we're belaboring this to death. I think that it is, we just need to look at regarding the language. If someone feels that we need to be more clear on that, then let's be more clear on it. If legal opinion, if it says that we don't, then that's fine too. I mean, it's just something that could present itself at some point in time. It's likely, I think we all understand what it means, what we're trying to do.
I guess what I'm wondering is if you read it all together, under per diem rates, it talks about the members may claim per diem for out-of-province travel. and it gives the amount. No meal allowances or per diems will be paid for attendance to council meetings, committee meetings, and so on. We know that. Officials may be reimbursed for other expenses incidental, necessary to municipal duties. That would come out of the travel budget. The only thing I can think of is the taxis and stuff like that. There wouldn't be anything major out of that. I don't know.
I'm not accustomed to it.
I haven't got reimbursed for anything in 20 years here, only for if we were going on a conference. Pardon me? Right, yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll come back to see if there's any. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next report. Sorry to scroll to the top here. Our next report is 6B, the use of city vehicle policy, policy number P-HR-4. Is there a discussion on this, or was this being presented here for information? Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, we just had a request to circulate this for information purposes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was curious, the same thing with, information purposes for what? Like, we don't have city vehicles, so this would be operational, in my opinion. So there's no updates to the policy, right?
No.
We had a request to bring this forward for information. There was a request, A, if we had a policy, which we do,
Yep.
and B, if it could be shared with council.
So basically what we're saying is that it should be, it's just that if you have a city vehicle, you don't use it for personal use. Right?
The policy spelled out there what it can and can't be used for, but it's always been there.
Yeah, that's right. It's always been there, but whether some are sort of taking advantage of it or not, I think this is what, probably one of the reasons was brought here.
But this is all looked after by the managers, correct?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Okay, moving on to 6C, repeal COVID-19 vaccination policy, policy number P-HR-17. Is there anything to speak to there, or is that coming to council for the repeal of that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we're just proposing that this policy be repealed as the province has discontinued the Vax Pass requirement, isolation requirements, and we've now adjusted to living with COVID-19 sustainably.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Mayor?
The
Yes.
report? Second
First
question?
question on
First
this
of two
report.
questions? Emily, how many staff, what was the number of staff that were affected by this policy? I know positively, a lot of people went with it. Were there any negatives?
I don't believe so.
Any staff that was relieved because of the policy?
No?
Okay,
No.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to report 6D, which is the repeal of the Canada Games volunteerism policy, policy number P-HR-18. Obviously self-explanatory. Canada Games are no longer active, so that, again, will come to council for I assume our role and commitments that were identified in that agreement. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Great. Okay, any questions on those reports?
Mr. Chair, just on that report.
Oh, we have a question from the mayor.
Would we have how many, do you have a number of how many Charlottetown staff, employees volunteered? Do you have that number? That could come up tonight. Do you have a number?
I can get that number.
Could be a question. Might be something you want to mention, too.
Oh, that could be, yes, thank you. I might be able to get a bit of, thank you. Okay, moving on. I think we do have any introduction to new business. I think the mayor would like
Richard?
to add something.
I just want to just
you're
go
the
back to previous to this HR committee. In the past, we did get just numbers on a monthly basis, which I thought was too much, on staff-wise, like who was hired, who's, and I'm not looking for the accident reports, but I know it's an operational issue, and we're trying to define, operational vis-à-vis what happens in this political forum right here. But I know those numbers were something that I kept an eye on, and I don't need, I'm asking for them on a quarterly basis instead of a monthly basis, just to, again, the numbers that we add to staff reflect what we need in the budget. So it's just something to be aware of.
So thank you, Your Worship. I do recall when I first got in the chair, we did have reports. I believe there might have been a rationale as to why we decided to not continue to provide that information publicly. But I think it might have been a little bit more to do with incidents and disciplinary and such, if I remember. Can you please elaborate on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct, we used to provide updates on all of our labor relations matters, health and safety incident reports, as well as our staffing numbers. And I think after further discussion with the CAO and other administration, it was deemed that those were operational stats, that those were not necessary to be shared through committee.
So, Mr. Chair, the numbers, the way I look at it, it is operational, but it does cut that gray area of political responsibility. The council is responsible for the budgets that pay for the staff. So the numbers that I was talking about is on staffing numbers 2020, 2021. We had comparative analysis month to month. So to me, that's information. That's not about, there's not talking about incidents of union issues. That's what I'm not talking,
So just quarterly, how
Okay.
many staff members are?
like what's going on.
So,
That's it.
so Your Worship, maybe what we could do is look to see a report around staffing that, identifies maybe a roll-up and we're not really reporting on some of those other numbers that were more operational. I don't disagree with
No, I don't want that.
looking at the kind of the numbers that reflect back what we're doing from a budgetary perspective
Yeah.
and what we've approved. I think that goes in line. I mean, you can easily cross-reference what we've approved in the budget and start looking at all those things anyways. So I don't think we could, I think we could request that
Yeah.
and have that added to the package quarterly or.
Quarterly basis.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
that's
thanks,
fine.
sir.
Okay. All agreeance that we
Yeah.
can do that if we can request that? Okay, thank you. Any other introduction of new business? I
Motion to
have
adjourn.
one. I just have one myself.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, I have an introduction of new business.
I'm hungry.
Just
I'm
quickly, so we have concluded our, as one of our other previous meetings around looking to implement a framework for the annual assessment and review of their CAO. So that RFP has concluded. So committee members here, myself, Councillor Bernard, Councillor Ramsey, and the worship will look to move forward on how we proceed with that selection process. So I just wanted to note that we will be moving forward on that, and that'll be something that obviously we won't be doing in this public forum, but nonetheless, we'll come with an outcome and provide that to council for approval. Aside from that.
I just got one question.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, I'm curious, who asked for the personal vehicle policy to come here? There must have been a reason. Because if it wasn't changed,
Two elected officials.
they wanted it to come here for us to review, or?
Yeah, they wanted to, the request came and through an email, including to you, asking that it be included on a future HR agenda.
So did they want something done with it?
I'm not sure.
I think they just wanted to see it.
So you guys would just send them the policy?
Well, that's what we
The
did.
request was to add it to your agenda.
Okay, I don't recall that. I don't recall it being asked to be added to here.
What's that?
I don't recall it being asked to be added to this agenda. The request was just to provide it, but it's online, right? This policy exists online on our
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlottetown
Yeah.
city website.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chair,
Motion
I
to
do
adjourn?
notice one thing, that looking through the policy, that personal use in city business sometimes is, again, another gray line. You know, you may be going to a funeral representing the city, but you may stop into something to pick up something, whether it's Superstore or Sobers or wherever. Like, if requests are being made to look at this policy, then maybe they should define what they're looking for, right? Instead of bringing this to the floor of this committee, this standing committee, and then define it, well, it was just asked. Well, if someone is asking, define what your ask is. If there's no definition to your ask, we can't bring it forward. Because I'm concerned about, like, was it about the EVs? Or electric vehicles, because I know I use them very often, and of course, there's some members of council say, well, you know, he's out driving around. Yeah, but I'm going to events that represent the city, and that vehicle is a way to promote the city as a good partner, as a part of the community. So I just think, and Emily, it's not something about, you're dealing with the business of this standing committee, but I believe there's an ask. You have to define what the ask is for. Why the ask? But you did discuss the agenda with Emily about what's going on today's agenda, correct?
Well, it's forwarded to me. I mean, we generally know what's. Okay,
Just curious why it come up, but anyway.
all right, motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Have a second? Second, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.